Good afternoon. Welcome back. It is Saturday, November 18th, 2023. We have a couple of birthdays and a few events to talk about here. We're going to go back to 1984 at Riverside International Raceway for the Cup Series. Jeff Bodine wins that race for his third win of the 1984 season. And this would be his final win before he wins the 86 Daytona 500, as he'd go winless in 85. But Terry Labonte wraps up his first Cup Series championship with a 65-point margin over runner-up Harry Gant in what was a fairly close battle for the last half of the year. The two most consistent drivers that season had a nice battle, and they had problems in the last handful of races. They never traded the lead back and forth, but it would always go from 20 or 30 points up to 70 or 80 and finally ended at 65. On this day in 1989 at the Atlanta International Raceway, now Atlanta Motor Speedway on the old oval, Ernie Irvan wins his first career ARCA race. Now, this race was on ESPN. I've got it somewhere in my collection. I do not know if this race is actually on YouTube or not. I've not looked for it. I don't remember a lot from this race, but I remember it was on real late at night, and I didn't know who had won it yet because it was done on a tape-delayed basis, and I stayed up real late and recorded it and watched it and was really surprised to see that Ernie had won, and it was kind of foreshadowing into the 1990 season, as Ernie would pick up his first Cup win in the summer of 1990. 1 year later, on this date, in 1990, Morgan Shepherd wins the Cup race at Atlanta Motor Speedway, but tragically this race was marred by that pit road accident where Ricky Rudd spun in the pits and hit the parked car of Bill Elliott, trapping crewman Mike Rich between the two cars, fatally wounding him. There's a couple other members of Bill's crew that were also injured in that. I don't recall the names. I believe maybe Ernie Elliott may have been one of them. I really don't recall the names of the other ones, but their injuries were not obviously as severe. And it was because of this incident that over the winter, NASCAR made changes to pit road rules. In the first 5 races in 1991 were really, really confusing before they finally settled on a pit road speed limit and a closure of the pit lane during caution flags at certain points to minimize the amount of cars coming into the pits. Yes, we still see incidents in the pits, but the cars are at a controlled speed. So you can imagine how bad some of the incidents we've seen over the last couple of years would have been had the cars been allowed to come flying down the pit road at 120 miles an hour like they used to. Now it's, more interstate speed, 50, 55, 60, and there's times that I think it even needs to be backed down a little bit, maybe to 45. And NASCAR needs to have it where, don't give them that 5-mile-an-hour leeway. If the speed limit is 55, make it 55. Don't say, okay, well, you can run 60 because whatever reason. If they can run 60, they can run 55. And our final event on this day, 2018 at Homestead Miami Speedway in the Cup Series, Joey Logano wins the race and wins his first Cup Series championship. And kind of ironic, too, that this was the year that he called out the big three in me. So it was Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex, who had been winning all the races, or a lot of the races, not all. They won a lot, and Joey had only won a couple at that point and was a silent contender. So heading into the championship 4, it was the big three and me, and guess what? Me won. So, anyway, a couple birthdays to talk about. Born on this date in 1941, sadly passed away in 2014, and I think those two numbers are kind of ironic when you think of the driver involved. 41 and 14 are two numbers that A.J. Foyt Racing used over the years at Indy, and this driver and his family had close ties over the years to the Foyts, Foyt team and the Foyt family. That'd be Mr. Gary Bettenhausen. Of course, his brother Tony and brother Merle also raced. Merle was injured in a racing accident in the, I want to say, the 70s. And their father, Tony Sr., perished at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway back in, I want to say, the 60s, maybe. But later in his driving career, Gary would go on to drive for Team Menard. There you see one of the brighter cars on the circuit. I can't tell you exactly how long he raced for, but I always remember the name Bettenhausen. It was a staple at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for a number of years. And they always try, of course, every driver that enters the 500 wants to win, but for the Bettenhausens, because of the loss of their father and all the bad luck that they had over the years, they really wanted that trophy and unfortunately never got there. And but the Bettenhausen name will live on forever at Indianapolis. And our final birthday, again, it's kind of ironic that in 2018 that his rival won the championship on his birthday. But born on this day in 2018, one of the most polarizing drivers in NASCAR today, and I think he has bumped Kyle Busch off the pedestal of number one heel in NASCAR, number one bad guy, if you will. That would be Mr. Denny Hamlin. These cards are not any particular order, as he's essentially had one sponsor since 2006, late 2005 if you count that short run, which would be FedEx. Now, I will say FedEx has got a great marketing team. That's when he won the Bud Shootout. But different ways to brand their product. You know, you had FedEx Office, FedEx Express, FedEx, all the different programs that FedEx run, and just slight color changes. Now, we'll get into the cars. They've done a really great job on the throwbacks. Of course, this is a DW Western Auto throwback. I thought that was a home run. And then you see, like, they have an all-purple one with that splash of orange up the side. This one looks very clean, a very clean-looking car. Of course, you're going for a little more explosiveness there with, kind of like a warp speed look. Didn't care much for this one. It was really plain, but I get the idea. You got all these different partners that you're working with FedEx. But when I say partners like FedEx Freight, then we've seen the FedEx Office, FedEx Express. And with this particular paint job, the trim on the car and the EX branding would change colors based on whatever part of the company that they were promoting. So FedEx Express was generally orange. There's a nice look one, of course, under lights, one of my favorite sets. This one almost has a Verizon paint job look to it with that little splash up the side. Then we kind of have these little, I don't know what you'd call those little, they look like buzzsaw marks coming through there. And then a next-gen look. Looks different, obviously, with that number pushed forward and the bigger FedEx branding. He did spend some time in the Busch Nationwide Xfinity Series. Had some good runs there. Started with the Rockwell Automation, and then we have a Z line here. But really, the card company's pretty much focused on Denny and his FedEx branding, and I don't blame them there. That's a big company. But Denny has got 3 Daytona 500 wins, 0 championships, and like I said, he's split the fan base. He's really, you're either... It's not like, people when they was cheering or booing for Darrell or Dale or some of the other folks, Jeff Gordon even. It's very split. Like, some of the people would respect Darrell or Dale or Jeff or some of the other ones because of their accomplishments. Even though Denny's got 3 Daytona 500s, people are very split in their opinions of him, and they either love him or they hate him. And I'm one of the few middle-of-the-road people on the subject because, I think he does pretty good. He's won on all the different types of tracks. But I think Denny also is so passionate he lets his emotions overcome his actions on the track sometimes. And that's why he struggles. That's why he hasn't completed the deal. I know he's worked with sports psychologists and other folks and just has still come up short in that championship hunt. I think he's got a good 2 or 3 years competitively left in his career. I would say, I don't know where he is on his contract status, but I'd say he's probably got one more contract renewal in him, and then he'll call it a career, and then he'll be a full-time owner. But that has been birthdays and events for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. As always, thanks again for watching, and we will see you tomorrow.